attracting and repelling metal boxes to solve conundrums. Soon enough, however, you'll also face magnetic spikes that you definitely don't want to attract. This simple setup immediately creates interesting scenarios and shows real potential as a good puzzle game. Orbital Punch is a top-down shooter without the guns. The only way to do damage is to use the power of your spaceship's jet engine, which means flying towards an enemy spaceship, whipping your butt around, and then blasting out a jet-fueled explosion. It's a weird and fun way to move around, like a mix between drifting a car and doing a gruesome finishing move. It just feels great, and this simple premise holds up for a long time. Barrage is a bullet hell game where you move to where you shoot. And this is quite easy to pick up in the side-scrolling tutorial area, but a lot harder when the screen zooms out to reveal a free-roaming battlefield. There's no running away from enemies while shooting behind you like you do in a lot of twin-stick games, because attacking a foe will draw you in nice and close, meaning you need to think very carefully about maintaining distance. Delta is a puzzle game where you have a time gun which lets you suck up old stuff and pump it into new stuff. In the demo, that mostly meant sucking the life out of a big old tree and then shooting it into a sapling to make it grow. You can only carry one thing at a time, which creates lots of puzzling scenarios, even in this early prototype with just a handful of screens. Clover Parent is a wacky platformer that feels like I could have played it on the Amiga back in the day. You play as an alligator and you can press X to make your plover bird buddy start spinning around in a circle. If you get the bird covered in slime, you can jump on it and then fling yourself around, or pick up an enemy and shoot it into spikes, and more. The alligator and the bird have different reactions to hazards, so you'll need to work closely together. Gubaev-Evgeniy, I think that's how you pronounce it, is a testament to the inventiveness of some jammers. Ask people to make one part of the game serve multiple purposes, and you end up with a puzzler where the dang floor can be used in multiple ways. Grab the floor with your mouse and move it to bat away traps, create pathways, and make the tiny chick jump on its way to breaking out of an egg. I'm not sure if this is realistic, I'm not a scientist. Stuck Recoil is another game for fans of tiny chicks. This time the chick can run around but is pretty weak and useless. Get to the egg though and you'll pick up a gun, which is so heavy it will pin you to the ground and propel you around the screen with its recoil. You'll need to bounce between the two modes to win, like a super cute take on Titanfall. Oda is a very clever puzzle game, where you throw out these two balls to swap the position of two objects, or throw one ball at an object and then swap yourself with it. You'll use this mechanic to defeat or outrun enemies, solve puzzles, and more. It's kind of ugly, but it has a lot of potential. Void is a clever bullet hell shooter where your gunfire reveals what's happening in the dark. The more bullets on screen, the less light they cast, so short bursts of fire are preferable. It's clever and interesting. Hopshot is a turn-based puzzle shooter. When you move, so do your enemies, and they all have very specific and predictable behavior as noted by the cards at the bottom of the screen. So when you move, they move, or when you shoot, they shoot. You've got to take advantage of their cooldowns and puzzle out the perfect way to outsmart these enemies. It's just a shame that you can't trick them into shooting each other. A Tale of Wind and Sea is a gorgeous two-player game where you must share a controller with a friend. It's all about creating trails behind you to power your movement and guard your orbs from your opponent. And then you can dive into the other side of the screen to attack your pal's orbs. The controls are a bit tricky, but it's a very interesting game. Power Core is a tower defense game where you play as a big cube of electricity, and you'll use this cube for everything, to stun enemies, scoop up power nodes, power up turrets, make new turrets, and heal your tower. By having everything go through this one brick, it becomes a game about prioritization, proximity, and physics. Lockstep is a clever game that plays with this idea that the camera zooms in when two characters are close to one another in a co-op game. Only the world doesn't move or change size, so you can use this to make yourself bigger or smaller to get around a maze and bounce on springy pads. My favourite part is that it can be played solo or in co-op, all in the exact same mode. Resize is a game where you literally resize the game's window to block lasers, bypass spikes, and reveal more parts of the level. It's a bonkers game, turning the very construct of the game itself into a helpful ally that can serve multiple purposes in the game. And finally, Super Funky Light Show is an excellent arcade shooter where everything does multiple things. You've got a bow, which can fire instantly for a small amount of damage, or charge it up for a piercing blow. Dead enemies turn into ghosts who must be captured to give you ammo and a score multiplier, and it even has a cool death system where you can respawn if you shoot some targets in time. The game is manic and feels great. You should polish this one up and release it as a full game. So there we have it. Like I say, there were so many terrific games. You can go play them all over at itch.io, so definitely leave the names of your favourites in the comments below. Thanks again to everyone who participated, the guys who helped me set it up in the first place, and everyone who helped judge almost 800 games. Let's never do this again. Just kidding.
Мы стали ближе. Доставка из Стройландии с Yandex Такси. Оформляйте заказ на сайте и получите.
This is 2-minute papers with Dr. Károly Zsolnai Fehér. Between 2013.
Hey everyone, Steve here. Hope you're doing great, staying healthy at home, and looking forward to some fun projects because that's exactly what I have for you guys today. We're going to be creating basically anything in the world that you want, completely free and only using Blender. Let's get into it. Super thanks to the cool people over at Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Also, if you want to download the finished city file, I have it available over on the Patreon page for just a few dollars. Plus, you'll get access to all the other files available on the channel. It's a great way to support the channel and get some cool perks in the process. So after my last video on creating 3D terrain using Google Maps, one of you guys requested an updated version of my cities tutorial. That's right, today we're going to be using Blender 2.8 and the updated, completely rewritten OpenStreetMap add-on to create basically any city you can think of in the world. It's pretty cool, guys. There's also a paid version of the OpenStreetMap add-on now that offers some cool improvements. You can actually get buildings imported with randomly generated textures already on them, as well as some extra details like stuff added to your scene. It might be worth checking out if you're interested in doing even more detailed cities. I'll put the link in the description. But today we're going to be doing everything completely free. We're going to be using the OpenStreetMap data contributed by individuals. If you guys want to contribute to this, you can do so over on the OpenStreetMap website, where you can actually add data to the different areas of map where there should be buildings and whatnot. I don't know, never done it, but it sounds pretty cool. And I know it's all community driven, so if you guys are interested in creating some OpenStreetMap data yourself, head over there. Without further ado, let's start rendering some cities in Blender. So before we get all...
Before you go... No, before you... вот это действительно неудобно уже теперь, да, ну, знаете, для себя уже неинтересно.
Ordinarily, you'll have
In 2015, DeepMind worked on an incredible learning algorithm by the name deep reinforcement learning. This technique looked at the pixels of the game, was given a controller, and played much like a human would, with the exception that it learned to play some Atari games on a superhuman level. I have tried to train it a few years ago and would like to invite you for a marvelous journey to see what happened. When it starts learning to play an old game, Atari Breakout, at first the algorithm loses all of its lives without any signs of intelligent action. If we wait a bit, it becomes better at playing the game, roughly matching the skill level of an adept player. But here's the catch: if we wait for longer, we get something absolutely spectacular. Over time, it learns to play like a pro and finds out that the best way to win the game is digging a tunnel through the bricks and hit them from behind. This technique is a combination of a neural network that processes the visual data that we see on the screen and a reinforcement learner.
AliExpress, émerveillez-vous. Vous avez sûrement dû entendre sur TF1 ou M6 cette publicité d'AliExpress qui tourne en boucle en ce moment. Et je vois encore plein de personnes utiliser AliExpress.
That comes up with the gameplay related decisions. This is an amazing algorithm, the true breakthrough in AI research. The key point in this work was that the problem formulation here enabled us to measure our progress easily. We hit one break, we get some points, so do a lot of that. Lose a few lives, the game ends, so don't do that. Easy enough. But there are other exploration-based games like Montezuma's Revenge or Pitfall that it was not good at. And man, these games are a nightmare for any AI because there is no score, or at the very least, it's hard to define how well we are doing. Because there are no scores, it is hard to motivate an AI to do anything at all other than just wander around aimlessly. If no one tells us if we are doing well or not, which way do we go? Explore this space or go to the next one? How do we solve all this? And with that, let's discuss the state of play in AIs playing difficult, exploration-based computer games. And I think you will love to see how far we have come since. First, there's a previous line of work that infused these agents with a very human-like property.
Ебаньгу. Спутинку.
Curiosity. That agent was able to do much better at these games and then got addicted to the TV. But that's a different story. Note that the TV problem has been remedied since. And this new method attempts to solve hard exploration games by watching YouTube videos of humans playing the game and learning from that. As you see, it just rips through these levels in Montezuma's Revenge and other games too. So I wonder, how does all this magic happen? How did this agent learn to explore? Well, it has three things going for it that really makes this work. One, the skeptical scholar would say that all this takes is just copy-pasting what it saw from the human player. Also, imitation learning is not new, which is a point that we will address in a moment, so why bother with this? Now, hold on to your papers and observe as it seems noticeably less efficient than the human teacher was, until we realize that this is not the human player and this is not the AI, but the other way around. Look, it was so observant and took away so much from the human demonstrations that in the end it became even more efficient than its human teacher. Whoa! Absolutely amazing. And while we are here, I would like to dissect this copy-paste argument. You see, it has an understanding of the game and does not just copy the human demonstrator. But even if it just copied what it saw, it would not be so easy because the AI only sees images and it has to translate how the images change in response to us pressing buttons on the controller. We might also encounter the same level, but at a different time, and we have to understand how to vanquish an opponent and how to perform that.
Entrepreneurs, bienvenue dans la matrice, une émulation virtuelle de la réalité du business. Ici, les mythes se brisent, les masques tombent et les impostures se révèlent. Business en ligne, coaching, consulting, dropshipping, prestations de services, infoprenariat et même...
Two, nobody hooked the agent into the game information, which is huge. This means that it doesn't know what buttons are pressed on the controller, no internal numbers or game states are given to it, and most importantly, it is also not given the score of the game. We discussed how difficult this makes everything. Unfortunately, this means that there is no easy way out. It really has to understand what it sees and mine out the relevant information from each of these videos. And as you see, it does that with flying colors. Loving it. And three, it can handle the domain gap. Previous imitation learning methods did not deal with that too well. So, what does that mean? Let's look at this latent space together and find out. This is what a latent space looks like if we just embed the pixels that we see in the videos. Don't worry, I'll tell you in a moment what that is. Here, the clusters are nicely clumped up away from each other, so that's probably good, right? Well, in this problem, not so much. The latent space means a place where similar kinds of data are meant to be close to each other. These are snippets of the demonstration videos that the clusters relate to. Let's test that together. Do you think these images are similar? Yes? Most of us humans would say that these are quite similar. In fact, they are nearly the same. So, is this a good latent space embedding? No, not in the slightest. This data is similar, therefore these should be close to each other, but this previous technique did not recognize that because these images have slightly different colors, aspect ratios. This has a text overlay, but we all understand that despite all that, we are looking at the same game through different windows. So, does the new technique recognize that? Oh yes, beautiful. Praise the papers. Similar game states are now close to each other. We can align them properly and therefore we can learn more easily from them. This is one of the reasons why it can play so well. So, there you go. These new AI agents can look at how we perform complex exploration games and learn so well from us that in the end they do even better than we do. And now, to get them to write some amazing papers for us, or, 2-minute papers. Episodes. What a time to be alive! This episode has been supported by weights and biases. In this post, they show you how to use their tool to check and visualize what your neural network is learning, and even more.
Definition one. Да, это штука. Ну наоборот. Наоборот, для себя как бы. Да наоборот. Нет, там не надо прогружать, потому что там все совпало. Нет, не совпало. Бля.